Sometimes when I sleep, I have the brightest dreams.
Hi, my name is Arlene Malinowski, and I'm a playwright, actor, and teaching artist who makes autobiographical work that looks at the intersection of disability culture and the world at large. I'm excited to be here today with two artists, Tommy Carroll and Kennedy Healy, who recently participated in the 3-Arts Bodies of Work residency program. As a fellow alum of that program myself, I'll be leading a conversation with them about their work, their experiences in the residency, and the way they situate themselves within the disability culture community. This conversation is part of a series called the Disability Culture Leadership Initiative, led by 3-Arts in partnership with Bodies of Work. Special thanks to the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, including Commissioner Rachel Arfa and the Central West Community Center here in Chicago, which is one of the outposts operated by the Mayor's Office and where we're filming today. Tommy Carroll is a drummer, composer, and beat maker who draws on dance, music, and improvisation to create a soundtrack for a more inclusive world. And Kennedy Healy is a self-described fat, queer, crip media maker whose multidisciplinary practice focuses on disability, accessibility, care, abolition, sexuality, and representation. Thank you both for being here with us today. So just to get us started, in your own words, can you just take a minute to describe your art, and not only what you make, but why you make it? Tommy, why don't we start with you? Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I think just broadly speaking, I'm very interested in the wide world of rhythm and just all its various possibilities. Everybody has a rhythm to them, you know, just socially. You know, they're not necessarily have to be a musician, and I'm very interested in how when you put different rhythms, whether, you know, we're literally talking musically or the rhythms of people's, you know, ways of socializing, both on and off the bandstand, and just seeing how that can reflect the world or even improve the world. And I think I'm very interested because I am totally blind. I think I'm particularly drawn to that because a lot of the way I navigate through the world is by sensing the rhythms of various things happening around me, like even something like, you know, cars and traffic and when to cross and stuff like that.
So I describe myself as a writer and media maker. I'm the founder of Crip Crap, which is a disability media company. And I'm really interested in creating work that's for disabled people or that like puts disabled people back in the center.
On-site logo. Zoom interview between the vet and a talk show host fills the screen.
When you think superhero, who do you picture? Our guest today just might challenge your assumptions. He's super strong, he can teleport across a crowded city, and he's blind. Tell us, Fat Boy, how did you become blind?
That's sort of personal.
Did your painful childhood inspire you to overcome your disability and unlock the hero inside you?
No.
Our tagline is media about disability by and for disabled people. And I get a lot of questions about like why that is. And I feel like the fact that that's a question is sort of answering itself. Like, why wouldn't disabled people get media catered to us rather than a 1-hour workshop kind of hand-holding a non-disabled audience to bring everyone into crip culture and like disability humor and experience in a really raw way, I think is like a quicker educational opportunity.
I love that. So tell me what's important to you about your work.
Yeah, so I grew up in Nebraska in the 90s and early 2000s, and I didn't see a lot of other disabled people. Like, disability was fairly hidden, and especially in the media, and there wasn't a lot of narrative around like a social model of disability or disability as a culture or community. So I think that draws me, and I think the pandemic, like the way we were talked about but not to as much, and like the way people misunderstood the disabled experience in this ongoing time, kind of shifted me toward media too.
Music has kind of been my social ticket in a lot of ways, like growing up, being very aware that people had preconceived conceptions, and just to get to like an actual guard down human on human interaction where there's not a lot of preconceptions is very hard. And through playing music, I don't know, that felt like to be something that opened a chance to actually have real interactions, real friendships, real relationships and stuff like that. So I've just kind of kept running with that, and I've picked up some more conceptual stuff along the way, but at the core of it, music is just a way of really creating better social spaces.
For everyone.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
So, we've all participated in the 3 Arts Body of Work residency, and that's a customized program for where deaf and disabled artists can design projects that they're working on to connect with other artists like we are today, scholars and mentors. Can you tell me a little bit about what you got out of the program, Kennedy?
Yeah, so I was working on a musical about in-home care systems in Illinois.
Which was terrific, I've read.
Thank you. So the residency, I think having mentorship and being able to connect with musicians, and even just being able to say that you got a residency, or that someone like read this script and saw merit in it, was helpful in a lot of different ways. And I think connecting with other disabled artists in Chicago has really helped open up more opportunities.
I think the best part for me was when I actually got to do a concert on the UIC campus with my band Calculated Discomfort. I was just starting to work on developing and kind of getting to try these newer concepts that were evolving from that out in a place very rooted in disability, and getting to interact with the students and just have that positive exchange was super awesome for me.
Tell me about Calculated Discomfort. I love the title. Tell me about your band.
So that idea, Calculated Discomfort, it kind of encompasses like a lot of stuff that I do now, and it's basically like, it's not being like uncomfortable. Like, we're not trying to make people feel bad, but it's about, pursuing that curiosity, putting different energies of people together. Like, so basically I play in rock bands, I play in jazz bands, all this stuff. So I invited like 10 to 15 people, and the goal of these compositions is just to create, different scenarios for people to interact. Like, okay, we're improvising, but the main goal is to dance here. Okay, we're improvising, but the main goal here is to like be as floaty as possible, but bring your own voice to it. Kind of just showing that like there is inherently music in all these interactions. So I never know exactly what's coming, and that's what keeps it interesting.
Thanks. Kennedy, tell me about that musical.
So it follows 8 main characters.
Right.
4 of them are disabled, and each of them have one care worker who is also a main character. And so I started writing it before the pandemic, and it was sort of inspired by like rom-coms like Love Actually, where like all the characters are kind of connected but like not. And then COVID hit, and I was like, okay, I can't talk about care without talking about the pandemic. I've been inspired by Susan Nussbaum's Good Kings, Bad Kings, as sort of like a more modern critique of the in-home care systems, where she was writing about institutionalization. I did a reading, and I had community members read the parts, and had people write their own scenes about care, because I think care is like something that's very invisibilized, but like is like the fabric of a lot of society. Right. So just seeing that reflected in other people's scenes was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is, as artists, is the process. So what form did that take for you? Or how do you situate yourself within disability aesthetics?
So I think that was why I was drawn to a musical in the first place.
Really?
Yeah, like I was like, our lives are ridiculous. Like, living under this system is ridiculous, and it needs to be put to song, because there's like no other way to cope with these realities than like ridiculousness and humor. And I think like crip culture has used humor to resist like desexualization and infantilization. And so I'm like, how do I like channel that into something that might, help people see themselves, but also, and like affirm that reality, but also like translate to other folks. And, I think changing perceptions is what can change systems. So, yeah.
And breaking out into song at any time is perfect for any occasion.
Seriously. Yeah, like I think, like Kennedy said, there's like a lot of, there's so much absurdity of like this is the way it's done. It's like why, like things are so boxy. And I think for me, like I would like to hope that at least in some way that my work evokes like the sheer inventiveness and evolutionary like capacity of the disability experience. We're always like navigating like one challenge or another, and that just creates much more surprising, much more interesting, much more innovative stuff, whether that's figuring out, like your personal care plan, or actually like creating, or figuring out how am we gonna celebrate my birthday and have a good safe time of it, or come up with a new piece of music for an ensemble of people who can and can't see.
So what has been a benefit, or what has it meant to you to be part of the disability arts community?
Yeah, I think so. I moved to Chicago when I was 17, and I feel like I had like a second raising here, like a political raising.
Really?
Yeah. So then to like come up in the politics, and then kind of find my creative flow, and just have this hub here has been so helpful and beautiful.
And being around other people who may understand your work better and may raise the visibility of your work. I mean, that's so unlike other places in the world right now for disability artists.
I definitely think the biggest thing of my, participation and being able to connect with others in the Chicago disability community has been slowly learning to embrace the sometimes roundabout or less efficient, by mainstream standards way of doing things as actual like assets and benefits. Like disability is it's really a reminder of humanity, because everything else is that we have people who have billions of dollars, trying to optimize the humanity out of things. So disability, I feel proud to have this identity, because people think that we're not human, but we're actually way more human.
Mm-hmm. I think being able to connect on a bunch of different levels is really helpful to us as artists.
It's a wide swath of ideas and thinking and stuff, and you don't always get that.
Agreed. So think about your own career, and what kinds of challenges did you face in gaining access or funding or training as an artist?
I've had 2 residencies that were both disability specific, and I think what you're saying about like disabled people seeing disabled work and like seeing it for what it is, when you approach other entities or just people not on the same page, you know, your work might get called like unique, and it is, but it isn't. Like if you've read disabled playwrights who came before me, like there's themes in there.
Structurally speaking, the music industry is ridiculously ableist. A lot of the music industry comes down to certain social assumptions, like people don't even think to hire me because they don't even think that I could like be possible of bringing my own drum set to like a wedding venue or something like that. Not that I want to be one of these cats who's out here playing weddings every weekend, but sometimes it would be nice if that was an option. So the music industry just operates, you know, there's so much, it's so visual too, you know, both, you know, in terms of production software, of how things are supposed to be marketed and things like that. So, I mean, having access to disability-focused grants has allowed me to definitely make a lot more work than maybe I would have been given the opportunities to do through traditional music industry outlets.
You're shaking your head.
Yeah, well, I think people don't realize how much time artists spend like trying to get funding.
I agree.
And when you're disabled, you're also spending a ton of time like on like care and health and transportation and housing and all these just like regular life barriers. So to bust through all that and like make it in a world that's like still a little confused about disability is like, a feat.
I think what you said was so interesting, and that is the business of the business as an artist. That is a whole entity unto itself. It's one thing to create, you know, and it's a whole nother thing when it comes to how do you support yourself as an artist in the world.
Not only are there different cultures of people who have disabilities, but they're just within disability. It's so broad, like what it is and what that does. I guess I don't even know if this is a question or just kind of like a big ambiguous philosophical softball, but like, yeah, I mean, in what ways do you find what different types of ways do you find yourself like thinking about like the broadness of the you know, the disability spectrum?
Like that was another helpful thing about Chicago is there is a lot of like cross disability movement work happening here, and the conversation has like really evolved from like just like tacking a ramp on every building, which is really exciting if that's fitting for them. So just like meeting people where they're at, I think could be really important in like fostering cross disability community. Tommy, I was gonna ask you about like sound being incorporated into other forms of art, like visual art or like theater. I feel like audio description and just like music in general are getting like more baked into other art forms, and what you think about like, is there a point where that impedes access, or is it more enjoyable, or do you find like the flowerliness of something like that to be annoying, or like
It's like super context dependent for sure. And also the other thing I'm about to say is definitely really only the past couple of years have I really had access to like TV and movie, you know, and now with like all the streaming platforms, you know, they have the audio description in there, which that's awesome. I don't know, have a more complicated relationship, and I actually have something coming up that kind of addresses this, is, when it comes to visual art, something like a painting and photography and things like that, you know, there is a lot of work being done and image descriptions and things like that. But just for me, never really having no recollection of any kind of site, it can be, that I'll be honest, like that stuff can be, I can struggle to engage with it. I will space out because that's just not how I connect to the world.
You know, the last couple of years have been hard on everyone, particularly artists, because we're forced to create in vacuums, and then COVID separated us in so many ways. So in the last 4 or 5 years, tell me an artistic win.
I honestly, I have to say, these past few years, artistically, have been very successful for me. Now have been getting some institutional recognition, and just by not giving up, you know, I kind of came out of COVID with ideas. You know, I host one of the cooler jam sessions around town now and stuff like that. So I think just that kind of like, always knowing that, hey, I'm gonna be, you know, some moments are gonna be very successful, some moments are not. And I think part of that has just been accepting who I am, and that's the biggest win, you know, is self-realization.
So you're already at self-realization, which is just a little slightly ahead of me. Let me celebrate a win for you. What was your win?
I started doing a lot more creative work because of the pandemic, folding it in as a practice, and like how to have an artistic process, and like how to like really actually do it.
So, what's coming up next for you as an artist? What do you dream about for your artistic life?
So I'm working on the musical right now. I have a pilot for a show I wrote with a friend, and working on a couple of children's books, and like wrapping some stuff up with a photo project. Crip Crep has a blog and a podcast. So I can't start any more projects right now, but trying to like gain traction in that field, and consulting, I think might be a nice way to like get my work out there, and then like keep making new things.
Man, I'm looking forward to just some consistency. Like, I think I'm finally at a point now where I'm running these jam sessions around the city. I feel like that opens me up now, where like, I do have a couple bigger scale creative ideas now that I just kind of feel like I really have my footing. I feel like I can do those things like even more.
So another thing I wanted to ask is, what do you hope to see for the future of the disability arts movement?
Get more and more equal chances to present all of our work, you know, in its fullest. Like, I feel like I've been very lucky. It just, the chance to get our ideas out there, like, more and more, and it feel less and less conditional, and also just the chance to really hopefully get to work with each other.
I like the idea of collaborating with artists within the disability culture. There is a certain synergy that happens when we get together.
I think all those things are sort of linked and cyclical. Like, it's not lost on me that like there were people creating these opportunities that I have now, like before there were curb cuts. Like, how? Like, but it still feels like, how are we doing this, you know, in the current climate? So, yeah, I think, yeah, there's just so much power in like art and story, and yeah, hope that it kind of feeds that cycle.
Art and story, you know, that's the thing that that survives societies and cultures. Right. You know, wars go away, politicians go away, but the art and the culture, that stays. That really does stay. I am so happy that we got a chance to do this, and that I got to know not only your work, but you as people. You are delightful and kind and generous, so thank you.
You too, Arlene.
Thanks so much.
Sometimes when I sleep, I have the brightest dreams. Disabled children of immigrants and first generation parents will love, 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 and be loved. Love, 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 and be loved. to know, free to grow.